Welcome to the Neuro Lifestyle Podcast, the show where we help you turn every aspect of your lifestyle into an advantage for your brain and your mind. Learn how to upgrade your fitness, food, technology, mindset, and more to unleash your full potential for life. Welcome back, everyone, to the Neuro Lifestyle. So several weeks ago, one of my favorite companies, Perfect Keto, reached out to connect me with a health and fitness expert who just so happens to live about 5 minutes away from me. So I thought this is a really cool opportunity. I get to collaborate with somebody locally, don't have to drive anywhere. What a steal. Turns out it's the one and only Thomas Delauer. And if you haven't heard of Thomas Delauer, he is a keto and fasting expert with, I think, 500,000 followers on Facebook, and I believe over 1 million followers on YouTube. But that's not to brag about his numbers, but just to say the guy is helping a lot of people, and people are really appreciating the content and information that he's putting out for good reason. Because he's got a really cool story of being over 100 pounds overweight and then losing it and getting on a cover of a fitness magazine and something nuts like a year and a half, something crazy like that. Absolutely nuts. But personally, I think the thing that makes this guy truly special is just how smart and intelligent the guy is. Because, I mean, let's face it, there's plenty of people out there who look great, they have the six-pack abs, but they just don't quite understand the science and the data and the research behind it to be able to communicate it well and help hundreds of thousands of people like he is. And he's got that part covered. He's extremely well-versed in the science and can back up everything that he promotes. I was really excited for this interview because oftentimes with health and fitness celebrities, you don't really get a chance to learn more about them, who they are. So instead of going full bore for an hour and a half on intermittent fasting and keto, we got to spend some time learning more about his story and also his path as an entrepreneur, which I thought was extremely fascinating. But of course, we did still talk about keto, intermittent fasting, so you're still going to get some of that good stuff. But this ended up being a really phenomenal conversation that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. So before we get into this episode, or even afterwards, whatever works best for you, make sure you leave a rating and review on iTunes to let us know what you thought about the show, but also what else you'd like to hear from Thomas. He lives incredibly close and has graciously offered to come back on the show if there's anything else that we wanted to learn more about from him, which is super great and really looking forward to that. But also don't forget to get our Keto Reboot ebook at hackyourketo.com, where you can learn how to jumpstart your keto journey and make it crazy simple and easy. It'll give you the essential blueprint and strategy to make sure you're doing keto right the first time. So head over to hackyourketo.com to grab your copy. All right, so let's get right into this. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Here is Thomas Delauer. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Neuro Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brady, and today we got a special treat for you. We have Mr. Thomas Delauer. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Dude, absolutely, man. So for those who have been living under a rock, haven't heard of you before, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, so I'm just a regular guy on the internet that is just having a blast. Now, I guess the simplest way to put it is, I'm one of the leading experts on keto and fasting, and lately I've been making a name for myself in the world of fasting because it's just something that I personally do, and it's been a natural evolution for me, just coming from the keto world, understanding fasting too. So a little bit about what I do online is create a ton of video, educational content, constantly putting content out there to be able to help people in whatever facet of life they're really looking to improve. So whether it's keto, whether it's fasting, whether it's relationships, whatever the case may be. My story, I was 280 pounds, 7-8 years ago. And
put that in perspective, where are you at now?
I'm about 180 right now.
180? Wow. Jeez Louise.
So that's probably what I'm most noted for is my personal transformation, going from being in the corporate world, being a healthcare executive, transitioning over into really the fitness and health world, and ultimately ending up on the covers of magazines, and just a massive transformation. And that's kind of how I got my initial foothold on the internet.
And we were talking a little bit pre-show. You were talking about that transition from when you were in the corporate world, and I didn't know this, but you were still overweight while you were working in the corporate world. And then how did that transition start to take place? Like, what was kind of that big shift for you that you were like, I need to change this up?
It's always, this question comes up a lot, and the crazy thing is that there wasn't ever really a call to action in my life, and it's not the answer that people usually want to hear. Like, usually the dramatic answer is like, I woke up one morning and I just wanted to.
I had a dream.
Yeah, but the reality was, it was just, I just kind of woke up one day and was just like, what am I doing? Like, it wasn't this major call to action where like, if I don't do this, I'm going to die or anything like that. But I mean, I did have an amazing network of physicians that were around me, just given what I was doing. And they were giving me these sort of cues. Like they were like, man, like you're really going down an unhealthy road. And it was tough because I used to be an athlete. I was an athlete all through high school. Even when I was overweight, I still consider myself an athlete because I was still working out. But I think what I did is I just had lost really the direction in which I was going. It was, for lack of a better way of saying it, it started as a bulk gone wrong. It was like I was trying to put on muscle. And then so I was like, oh, I can eat whatever I want. And then I continued to eat like that, even while I was stressed out then I stopped training as much. And then next thing I know, I'm just like, oh, well, I'm just bulking up. It's kind of like, Eric Cartman in that episode with Beefcake, where he's just like, he takes the weight gainer and he's just, you know what I mean?
No, exactly.
I'm bulked up. So the next thing I know, I'm like, well, what am I doing? Like, I'm just so focused on my career and so focused on making money and these like external factors that I just totally let my health go. So it was just really waking up one morning and saying like, I really don't feel good. Something needs to change. But it wasn't anything crazy dramatic.
Yeah, there wasn't a specific pinpoint on that. Now, what sports did you play?
I played rugby and cross country. So,
oh, no way.
Yeah.
I played rugby also.
Yeah. What position?
I played flanker.
I was a winger.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. What's funny is I had the same story. I went to high school and I was like a skinny kid when I came my freshman year, and we went to a small high school. And once I got there, the team was so small, they had to fill up people for linemen. So I started off as a wide receiver, and they're like, you're pretty tall. You could be a pretty good lineman. We need you to beef up a little bit. So sure enough, I go home. My dad's pumping me full like muscle milk and like all this protein powder to get me to beef up. Sure enough, next season I come in, I go from wide receiver to offensive line pretty fast because I'd put up a lot of weight. Yeah. But I still kept eating that same way, trying to beef up and bulk up. All the way until I got into college. Well, I was playing rugby in college. It was the same thing. I was just like kept doing the same thing and just nothing ever changed. So it's kind of funny you have the same story. Now, what kind of led you down to the keto world? Now, was that even the first thing you went towards? Was keto?
Yes, keto was essentially the first thing that I did. I mean, really what I started looking at was inflammation. I became really obsessed with inflammation. And a lot of it had to do with, a lot of the doctors that I was working with when I was in the healthcare world were concierge doctors. So they were, and for those listeners that don't quite know what that is, basically concierge physicians were doctors that were working on a fee-for-service basis with usually very affluent patients that were just paying them a cash retainer. So what that means is a lot of these doctors weren't necessarily influenced by an insurance reimbursable. A lot of times we see in the medical community that doctors just naturally, it's not anything wrongdoing, but they naturally start to bill out the same kind of codes that they know insurance will pay out on. So it's just a safe measure for them. Concierge doctors really don't pay attention to that because they're an advocate for just a very small patient base. So I really learned a lot about inflammation at the time, and that was a big thing for me. So I started learning, okay, this inflammation thing, what is everyone talking about with inflammation? And, so I started understanding that. And, at first it started out, honestly, this is the honest take here. I'm not fat, I'm just inflamed. This is the problem. But as funny as that sounds, it kind of was the case because inflammation and obesity do go hand in hand. So once I started understanding inflammation, so the first phase was just eliminating inflammatory foods out of my diet and then getting into keto and then learning more about keto. And, I did keto for a number of years in conjunction with intermittent fasting and, lost a lot of weight very fast with it. And then, with my wife, she has Lyme disease and my wife also has Hashimoto, a thyroid condition. So for her, keto ended up being a lifestyle that helped her overcome those. So it was just like, okay, I came at it from the body composition side. She came at it from the therapeutic side and we just became obsessed with it.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Now, how long was it before you lost like that 100 pounds?
I lost it about a year and a half.
Year and a half? Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy. And since then, what did you find were some of the biggest mistakes you made when you first kind of were going into keto?
I mean, as far as keto itself goes, or as far as just like in terms of the tangible diet, or in terms of...
Just in terms of like the lifestyle. So this could even be for yourself, because a lot of people we find are making some pretty critical mistakes that I think you've talked about in some videos before. Could you go over some of those like big mistakes you see a lot of people make?
Totally. I would say the biggest mistake that I was making was, since my mind was constantly being bombarded with stuff from the fitness industry, I thought I needed to be consuming ridiculous amounts of protein. That was like my ratio of fat to protein was just way, way, way off. I mean, it's okay to be a little bit off, but like I was like consuming probably 2-to-1 protein to fat because I was just like, I need protein shakes. And, I found that I was going through these plateaus. I was finding like, okay, why isn't the weight falling off anymore? That was probably the biggest thing that I had to overcome. The other thing that I started learning was that, I don't have to be perfect all the time. That was the thing, stressing myself out, because the stress that was coming from trying to be perfect all the time far superseded, the negative effects of that superseded any positive effect I was getting from the diet.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about this in, right before this episode. a lot of our listeners are pretty familiar with keto. We've talked about it a lot on the podcast. But one of the big things that we talked about before was putting yourself in this box, or this keto box.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you address a little bit more of that? What happens when people get stuck in kind of this rigid box of keto?
Yeah, totally. Well, I think it happens in any aspect of life, totally. But with keto, people tend to think that, there's this direct hard line that you're either, like once you're in keto, you have to follow this specific set of guidelines, or you're not truly in keto and you're not going to get the effects. The line is pretty easy to see, quite honestly. You're either in ketosis or you're not. What kind of happens within that spectrum of being in ketosis is totally up to you and your lifestyle. You don't have to live a certain way. And that's the thing, is we're flooded with so much content and information on the internet that I feel like people think they have to subscribe to one way of thinking, and that's it. And as a content creator myself, sure, I love people to follow what I say, but I also embrace what everybody else is talking about, because I understand that a lot of people, when they go into keto, they want to have their heavy cream. They want to have dairy. They want to have those things. Just because I'm not a proponent of it and it doesn't fit with my lifestyle doesn't mean that it's wrong. So you don't have to put yourself in a specific keto box, and also give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. If you come out of keto, don't freak out. You get back in. It's just, so when we live in this box, like we feel like we constantly have to be under watch by the keto god, and keto god's going to whack us and hit us with his, magic wand.
Keto big brother.
Yeah. It's like keto big brother does not exist. The keto big brother is in your head. You're doing this because you're wanting a better lifestyle. So don't trip out if you just mess up a little bit. And I had to learn that the hard way, because I'm a very type A personality. And I was like, Thomas, you're messing up.
They're checking your ketometer every day if you're not checking.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I totally agree the same way, because some people will find they'll get so stuck in that box of, I have to stick to this percentage or this ratio, but they feel terrible the entire time. Oh, but I'm in keto. Okay, well, that's not the whole point of it. The point is to get you to feeling really good and get the results that you want. So if that's not doing it for you, it's probably trying to change your methods up a little bit, right?
Yep.
Now, for you, kind of something else we were talking about pre-show is exercise a little bit. We touched on this a little bit. I'm just curious, what is your biggest or most favorite type of exercise to do for keto or while keto?
Well, I'm a runner by background. That's the thing. It's like,
no way, you're a runner.
Yeah, I ran cross country in high school as well as played rugby, but I was an endurance runner. I ran my first marathon when I was 11 years old. I was like a freaky runner. I was obsessed with running. In the same way that I got obsessed with business and let myself go to crap. The same kind of thing. I was obsessed, so I'm very obsessive nature. So I actually enjoy, cardio when I'm in keto. And the thing is the nice thing is what I've found is, because of the anti-catabolic state of ketosis naturally, where you don't burn up a lot of muscle, it's the one time that I can enjoy my cardio a little bit more without losing copious amounts of muscle. So I shift to a little bit more of a high rep range, and I shift to a little bit more of an actual, cardio type movement. And it feels really good.
Yeah.
And I can still do my weight training, but like you and I discussed, is you do take the good with the bad. And sometimes in ketosis, you end up finding that, your, anaerobic activity just kind of suffers a little bit. And I have found, however, interestingly enough, I started monitoring, because your creatine phosphate system still stays pretty active when you're in keto, and for the listeners that might not know the kind of transition there, the first 1 to 4 reps are usually going to be creatine phosphate system. Then you move into the anaerobic system up to 15, 16 reps. And then after that, you're going into the aerobic system. Well, that anaerobic system is where you need the carbs. So that it's that gray area between 3 reps and 15 reps where you're normally, oxidizing carbohydrates. Anything over that, you're using oxygen. Anything below that, you're using the creatine phosphate system. So I have found that not always, but I can still maintain strength sometimes with a 1 to 3 rep range in keto, but not so much. But once I start pushing it past that 3 rep range, that's when I start to suffer. So I combine my cardio and then do my exceptionally heavy lifts, still take a little bit of a haircut in terms of my strength when I'm in keto. But I find that sort of 1 to 3 rep range for some of the more isolated movements, working even in chest and stuff like that. The power moves, they kind of die. The deadlift, the squat, those kind of suffer.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to go keto, but they also do want to do like the power lifts and the high intensity strength movements, what would you recommend they do to alter that a little bit?
I mean, I would say, and this isn't with any plug towards any supplement company at all, just plain plain up. Like creatine monohydrate when you're in keto is actually good. I mean, it actually does work because it's not going to break a fast. It's not going to break keto. So you might as well feed the system that's going to get you those 1 to 3 reps. And also what we find, in terms of carrying some muscle is when you're in keto, you deflate a little bit. For every 1 gram of carbohydrate you consume, you hold 3.7 grams of water. So when you start dropping carbs, you kind of shrink a little bit and people freak out that they're burning muscle. Not the case. You're just devolumizing. So creatine is going to allow you to inflate a little bit more. So it's going to keep your muscles a little bit fuller, which kind of adds a placebo effect and helps you get a little stronger. So.
Makes you look a little bit more jacked too.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then what's the power? And for those, maybe we'll preface this a little bit. What's the power of combining intermittent fasting and keto? And for those who don't know what intermittent fasting is, let's just break that down just real quick.
Sure. Yeah. So intermittent fasting is very, very simple. It's where you have a predefined area of time where you're not eating and a predefined area of time where you are eating. You're just restricting your eating to a certain period of time. Generally, the most common that we see out there is a 16-8, 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating. I personally am a bigger proponent of like 18-6 or even a 24. I feel like the benefits of fasting start at 16 hours.
Yeah,
and if you break your fast right at 16 hours, you're breaking it right when the benefits are starting. And it exponentially increases every hour after that. But anyway, so intermittent fasting is that, where it's like you're skipping breakfast or skipping lunch and you're just consolidating your meals to dinner. And you have some benefits because you can't possibly be consuming 3,000 calories in a couple. Well, I shouldn't say that. You definitely can.
It's possible.
Okay, but you have to work for it. And if you're doing that, then you have to worry about that first. It's because that's like pounding McFlurries. Like,
that's a whole nother problem.
But it makes it so you can't consume as many calories. So it's just because, and the stomach desensibility, your stomach shrinks. So you're not going to want to eat that much. So you have, the calorie restriction that comes from it. We have all these hormonal benefits too. But in order to truly explain the relationship between keto and fasting, we have to know the history really quick. So I'm going to take a second to explain kind of how actually ketosis was actually found based on fasting. So back in the 1900s, or I should say in the 1800s, medical professionals had found that fasting was really, really successful when it came down to treating neurological conditions. So epilepsy and a lot of other neurodegenerative issues. So they found that, okay, well, this is great. Fasting is improving these things. But what is it about fasting that is improving these? So it took them decades to really dive into it. And they started finding that eventually what the deal was that when they were fasting, they were producing ketone bodies. And it was these ketone bodies that were magically making things heal and making things better. So again, they have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, now we know what the common denominator is, or we know what at least the issue is, or I shouldn't say issue, what we actually, the root is. It's the ketones. So how do we determine how we can get these ketones to be produced without forcing people to not eat, because that was not always realistic. So we now know that ketones and fasting were the relationship between epilepsy and success. So what they started doing is they started doing 3 or 4 years worth of studies determining how can we get the body to produce ketones. Well, they found eventually after 3 years that by removing carbohydrates, the body still produced those same ketones that it produced when fasting. So medical miracle, now people don't have to starve themselves for 3 days. They can just cut out carbs. And that's how ketosis came to be as an actual therapeutic diet for neurodegenerative conditions and things like epilepsy. And that's where we are today, where it's so amazing. So when we look at the common denominator there, ketosis and fasting both leverage the power of ketones. So very, very similar. So when you're in ketosis, you're already producing copious amounts of ketones. And then when you go into fasting, you're producing even more ketones. Your body's already primed for burning fat. And now you're depriving yourself of dietary fat for a short period of time. Your body has no choice but to extract it from your body fat. So it's like ketosis is already primed the pump. You're already using fats. So now temporarily, play a joke on your body and pull the food away. And it's like, wait a minute, where's my fats? Where's my fats? So it has to start pulling them from your body. It's really, truly amazing when you combine keto and fasting.
Yeah, it's a powerful, powerful system. Like in the biohacking world, that's, the thing is, you're hacking your body. This is probably like the biggest hack there is combining intermittent fasting and keto. And one of the biggest questions I get, and I'm curious your answer to this, why is it that we can't just go ahead and eat more fats with the same amount of carbs and get into keto?
Yeah, exactly. And that sums it up because we have the carbs are constantly producing insulin, and the insulin is making it so that we're not able to get into keto. I want you to think of insulin as just sort of the blockade. It's not necessarily, it is the carbs, but it's more so the insulin, which is exactly why protein can actually kick you out of keto too. So the same problem I talked about earlier is that protein is also insulinogenic. It's still going to cause an insulin spike if you're consuming enough of it. So it's going to have that same blockade that's going to prevent those ketones from forming.
Yeah, exactly. And do you find, depending on your activity levels, do people need to change up how much protein they're getting? Yeah.
What's crazy is that I've been really closely monitoring this. the higher intensity my exercise is, the harder it is for me to get in keto.
Oh, interesting.
Which is crazy. Like it's totally backwards from what most people would think. They're like, the harder I work, the quicker I'm going to get into keto.
Mm-hmm.
No, the body actually tries to protect you and it starts breaking down your muscle tissue. That's when it's breaking down your muscle tissue. And those muscle tissues are breaking down into amino acids, which are causing an insulin spike. So the harder, it sounds crazy. It sounds counterintuitive. And I don't want to give people the wrong idea, but the harder that I train in keto, the less results I end up having in terms of the benefits of keto. So when I'm in keto, it's like, okay, I guess I just kind of go into a mode where like I just enjoy my workouts and I'm not trying to push myself to this absolute limit all the time, which is good and bad. I mean, it's good because that's sustainable. At least that's something I know I can do for the rest of my life. But it's bad because guys like you and I, like I think we get our jollies off of really pushing ourselves sometimes.
Yeah. Sadistic.
So every once in a while, that's why I say, I phase out and I'll go a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, sometimes every quarter and come out of keto. And so that I can actually get my full blown hardcore workouts in and feel like I satisfied and pacified that part of my brain.
Yeah. I bet there's people who are listening to the show right now going like, oh, he gets out of keto.
Yeah.
What?
I'm unfollowing.
I'm unfollowing. I'm over this episode. Stop it. I'm going to leave a bad review on this podcast now. No, it's one of those things too. Like we were talking about, you live in the box, but there's these physiological systems that are in play that you need depending on what your goals are, right?
Totally.
And so if your goals are, you do want to get stronger, you do want to do all those things, you do want to do this powerlifting, maybe it's going to help you to go out of keto for a little bit. And then when you want to kind of maintain and cruise, okay, go back into keto. And it's like we were talking about before, during my work week, typically, I'll be in keto for a couple months at a time where like, I know I'm trying to get a lot of stuff done. But then if I'm going on vacation with my wife, I'm going to eat some carbs. Like I'm going to eat whatever I want while I'm on vacation. And that's okay.
And that's a perfect time to implement intermittent fasting.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, and that's where people get confused when they listen to my material all the time is they're like, so sometimes you're talking about fasting with carbs. Sometimes you're talking about fasting in conjunction with keto. Like when's what? Well, if I'm going to go off the rails a little bit where I want to just enjoy a little bit more food, I will capitalize on intermittent fasting because it's kind of like, all right, cool. Like I have my body's granted a little bit of amnesty from like the normal negative effects of this food. I can go ahead and take a break off of my keto and do a few days a week of intermittent fasting where I still implement my carbs at the end of my fasting day. And it's like the best of both worlds. I'm still getting the temporary benefit of ketosis while I'm in that fasting period, but I'm also getting the glycogen replenishing effects restoring with carbs.
Yeah, exactly. And it just makes life so much easier. Dude, like intermittent fasting has made my life so much simpler.
Yeah.
And one of the things we talked about before the show was when you're in the state of ketosis, like your brain is just on fire.
Yeah.
Like your brain is on hyperdrive. And that's one of the things that really got me super into keto in the first place. I wasn't too concerned about losing weight, even though I was overweight at the time. But I tried intermittent fasting first before I went keto. And then I realized, like, what is this benefit I'm feeling like while I'm fasting? And I found out it was from the ketones.
Yeah.
I was like, man, my brain feels like it's literally on fire. Like I'm getting, oh, dang, that's not good. But like I was getting so much stuff done in the mornings that I was like, I like this. Like, how do I keep that going? And that's what really got me into it in the first place. And next question is, for most people, when you're doing that transition, we're talking about the keto flu here.
Yeah.
Do you find... Actually, let's start here. What are some of your best tips for getting through the keto flu? Let's start there.
Yeah. So I don't know. Have you talked on other topics about like what causes the keto flu, everything like that?
Vaguely.
Do you mind if I just give a quick?
Please go for it.
I feel like it helps the solution make sense.
Yeah.
So the keto flu happens with there's two different things that cause the keto flu, and it's hard to determine which one is which in given people. But usually, what the issue is it's a period of time where the mitochondrial machinery, so to speak, hasn't quite adapted to utilizing those fats just yet. So it's a little bit of a different makeup inside the mitochondria to be able to start using ketones when you're shifting it from glucose to ultimately fats. So the mitochondria takes 4 to 6 weeks for it to fully develop the machinery. Not saying you're going to be in keto flu for 4 to 6 weeks, but keto for 4 to 6 weeks is where you're going to really start being like, all of a sudden, it's like now your body is fat adapted. And even if you go out of keto, you can go right back in and your body's got the framework, it's got the machinery.
Yeah.
So that's one phase. And it's sort of like the analogy I use is you've got a gas tank. The gas tank is full of gasoline. You've got a reserve tank. The reserve tank is full of jet fuel. Okay. The downside is you have to drain through your gasoline before you can ever get to the jet fuel. At the bottom of your gasoline tank, my dad used to always tell me, never let your tank get really low because there's sludge and it's going to clog your lines if you let your tank get too low. Well, that's exactly what happens. You drain your tank, your carbohydrate tank, you get to the bottom of that tank, and you've got to get through that sludge where your body's just like, I don't want to do this. And then you all of a sudden push through and boom, you're in the jet fuel tank. And all of a sudden it's like, I feel amazing. So that's kind of the keto flu. The sludge is the keto flu. Now, the other part of the keto flu is for those that aren't keto adapted, that have never gone into ketosis before, they have almost, I want to be careful saying this, but it's almost like a toxic amount of ketones at first, not toxic to the point of ketoacidosis, nothing like that, but to the point where you have so many ketones, your body's just like, I don't know what to do with these. That's why people, when they first go into keto and they use the current keto like urine strips, they're like turn black, like dark purple. Like, yeah, you are in keto and your body is producing way too many and your body is almost in shock. It has too many. And so they randomly destruct themselves and they turn into acetone and you exhale that out and you feel kind of crappy. That only lasts a couple of days before your body's figuring out what's going on. So back to your original question, how do you get through the keto flu? One of the best things that you can do is actually, you don't want to have those excess ketones. So you do want to be able to prime your body with the fats and you don't want to cut that down. So where's the gray area? Well, you actually do more exercise. People think when they're having the keto flu that they need to chill out. And it's really hard, but you do need to try to exercise and burn off the extra ketones. So I recommend going for a walk, going for a run, keep moving. The best way to combat the keto flu is to just walk and burn up the excess ketones so that they're not having that toxic effect in your body. And for the other situation where you're just trying to adapt, the best way that you do that is continue to eat your fats. So it's like a combination of the two. Eat a little bit more fats. It will help you get through it, but also at the same time, make sure you keep moving.
Yeah. Now, explain a little bit, what is keto adaptation or being fat adapted? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's like the best thing in the world.
It is. It really is.
Keto adapted. So here's the cool thing. You don't have to be in ketosis to be keto adapted. So keto adapted is, in essence, the body's way of saying, you have taught me how to use fats for fuel. Thank you. Now, whenever you start consuming fats, I know how to use them. So even when you're out of keto, your body will start to use fats. It'll oxidize fats because it knows how to do it. You have essentially given it the blueprint to build that mitochondrial machinery to understand how to metabolize fats. Because the society that we live in, we are just bred to eat carbs, no pun intended with bread. But we're born and it's like the first thing we do, it's like, even baby food. It's like, I'm having a new baby. I'm like, obviously like we're breastfeeding now, but I'm still looking at like, okay, what happens when we start feeding them solid food? It's like sugar. I'm like, we're just giving them carbs. So our bodies are just accustomed to these carbs. They're never getting an opportunity to develop the machinery to metabolize fat. So when we go into keto, if you're in keto for like 6 to 8 weeks, studies have shown that you become keto adapted at 6 to 8 weeks. So that means if you decide to go hardcore keto, make a commitment, say like for this first period of time, I am going to be in this box for 6 to 8 weeks, get yourself into full-blown keto for 6 to 8 weeks, very good chance that you will at that point develop the machinery to be able to metabolize fats for the rest of your life. And Tim Ferriss has even talked about it with Dom D'Agostino on his podcast, where he says like Dom D'Agostino, he's done some research and he's found that people stay keto adapted for like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years after going out of keto.
That's crazy.
They're like, okay, 10 years later, like, I want to go back into ketosis. In like 2 days, boom, they're back in.
Yeah.
It's like their body's like, thank you. I was ready for this.
Yeah. It's like that saying, you can give a man fish or you can teach him how to fish.
Yeah, totally.
It's the exact same thing. That's how I always explain it.
I love that, man. That's so perfect. You can teach your mitochondria, you can give your mitochondria a fish, or you can teach it how to fish.
Yeah. Now swap the fish with ketones and you got it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Now, another thing that I hear a lot of people talk about, and this is something that you see all over, especially like Instagram and everything, is I want to get into deep ketosis all the time.
Yeah.
Is that what we actually want to do?
No. It's so funny because it's just like this rite of passage. Like I see so many people, like if I had $1 for every like urine stick that I've seen a picture of on Instagram, I could probably buy like a Pinto or something. Like, maybe not like a Ferrari, but maybe like a 1989 Honda. Like, I don't know. But it's like, the thing is like, I've seen a good amount of them, and it's like, don't be proud of your dark purple people. That's a hard one to say. Dark. It's like purple people eater. Like
purple people eater.
Dark purple keto stick. It's okay to be proud of it. I understand. Like, I don't want to like burst their bubble, but you don't want to be there all the time. Like the actual, like when you're looking, first of all, the urine strips are not the most accurate way. You should always use, a blood meter, or breath meters work too, but blood meters are the best. The urine sticks, like you really want to be actually in the small to moderate. That means that you're creating enough that your body is using. You're not creating excess. Excess of anything is bad. My mom always taught me everything in moderation. And also anything in excess is bad. Like simple rules to live by. Yeah. Anything in excess is bad. If you have excess ketones, it's not a good thing. They're doing something. Yeah. Okay. They are making your blood a little bit more acidic. They are, and it's not that it's going to be bad, not ketoacidosis, but like, okay, chill out. Like you can, have a tiny bit more carbs to get yourself so you're just right on the even keel.
Yeah. And that's one of the things too, is your body will become more, as we're talking about being fat adapted, your body's going to get better at using ketones. That's the ultimate goal, is to get your body better adapted at using those ketones. So if you're constantly in a super high state of ketosis, but you're not actually using those ketones that are in the blood, that's not a good thing.
Good point.
So like as you go forward, you should be seeing those kind of reduce a little bit. And that's one of the things I find with so many people is they go, man, I've been on keto for 6 to 8 weeks and my ketone levels just keep dropping. Good. That's what we want to see. You're using those ketones better, and that's why you're feeling all the benefits. You feel great, right? Yeah, I feel awesome. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah. And even still, like, let's just pretend hypothetically that this person that says this actually is out of ketosis. Let's just say that they actually are. But if they feel amazing, who the heck cares?
Yeah.
That's the point, is like, that's the box we're talking about. Like, keto is great and it's an amazing lifestyle. But if you're feeling good, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So like, if you're tripping out because the meter says you're not in ketosis, like, stop looking at external validation. If you're feeling good and you're losing weight and you're going the route you want to go, then don't mess with it. You're doing great. Don't worry about what the keto stick says. It's fine. Maybe you're in ketosis, maybe you're not. But either way, you're feeling good. So just don't stress.
Yeah. Don't freak out about it. Yeah.
This isn't a keto race.
Yeah. It's not like it's like going to the gym, like whose bicep is bigger. It's like whose ketone levels are higher. I don't know. Yeah. Have you used the breathalyzer at all? Keto breathalyzer?
I've used one from Level, which is like a full device. It was a little complex and very expensive, but that's the only breath meter that I've used. I know there's the ketonics. Have you used ketonics?
I haven't used it before. No.
I mean, quite frankly, the breath meters are just difficult to get an accurate reading. And the thing is, they measure breath acetone.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And what we have to understand is, I don't know if you know this about ketone bodies, but so we start with acetoacetate, acetoacetic acid, which is the primary ketone body that converts into beta-hydroxybutyric acid, or beta-hydroxybutyrate, more commonly known. Okay, so acetoacetate is not really used in the body. Acetoacetate's job is to turn into BHB. Okay, then BHB actually goes around and does its thing, creates energy, converts back into acetyl coenzyme A and all that. Then we have acetone, this random, like, decrepit ketone body. Like, it's like the redheaded stepchild of the ketone family. And it's just like there. And it's like, hey guys, I'm acetone. And everyone's like, acetone, go away. And the reality is they found that all acetone is the spontaneous death and explosion of an acetoacetate. So basically, acetoacetate is created by the liver, hepatic liver cells, and it gets put out into the bloodstream. In the ideal situation, it would turn into BHB. But a lot of times, we just have this spontaneous death of acetoacetate where it just explodes and turns into acetone. So basically, all acetone is a byproduct of dysfunctional acetoacetate. So the more breath acetone you have doesn't necessarily mean that you're in a deeper state of usable ketosis. It just means that at that point in time, you have more dead acetoacetate. So I just don't know how it can truly accurately measure whether you are in a beneficial state of ketosis. So as much as I hate pricking my finger, I feel like a blood meter is probably just the most accurate way.
Yeah. And how often would you say you actually do your blood testing?
I mean, a lot of companies will tell you to test it 3 times a day, but I think that's overkill. I think that's like, when you're first starting out and you're excited and you're kind of obsessed with it, go for it. Like it's motivation for you. That's all good. But I mean, now, twice a week tops.
Yeah, seriously.
Just to check,
Exactly.
And I didn't want to use, this isn't like a plug or anything like that, but I think the company that I think everyone's probably seen on Facebook recently, Keto Mojo.
That's what I use.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because it measures the hemoglobin too.
Yeah, that one's pretty cool.
Or hematocrit, I'm sorry. Yeah. So it's, and Dorian, the owner of it, is from my hometown. So like I know him pretty well. So it's just, they've managed to make it relatively affordable and easy. So that's
really affordable. Really affordable. Yeah, because, when you think about what is the testing actually for, the testing should be a way for you to kind of monitor and track how you're doing. So especially once you're fat adapted, you shouldn't be testing twice a day. I mean, that's way overkill. No, but especially if your lifestyle. Yeah, right. I guess it's a good way to get rid of lead, I guess. But it's like, it's one of those things, like if you're staying in the same consistent lifestyle and you're already in ketosis, what's there really to check? You don't need to be checking every day, but if your lifestyle is starting to change or you're changing up your training or different aspects of your lifestyle, sure, you want to check just to monitor and see how that's influencing your keto journey, essentially.
Totally. Self-experiment.
Yeah, exactly. Now, before this interview, what I did is I put a poll up on Instagram, and I wanted to see what people wanted to ask you, what people wanted to talk about.
Okay.
And one of the things that I kept getting messages from was your transition into being a content creator, because people have seen your stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit pre-show. Talk about that transition from when you went from being in the corporate world to now being the online presence that you are now.
Yeah, totally. So a lot of it came down to, again, that network of doctors that I knew, right? So I had this like repository of information, of health information, that as a fatty, I just had nothing, like no credibility, right? Like but guys, like I know all this amazing stuff, but I'm 280 pounds. So like, yeah, don't listen to me.
I'll get back to you in a couple months.
So for me, it was kind of like, okay, if I want people to trust what I say, I've got to look the part. And I knew that I could do it because I honestly did kind of look the part before. Like I was very fit. And so I knew that I had the discipline. That wasn't even a question. So it was a matter of like, all right, cool. I just need to apply myself. And literally, there's no variables because I know I'm a disciplined person. So let me apply the discipline with pure education, right? And see, like, I will be a great litmus test because I know I won't deviate. So I did it. I'm like, holy crap, this worked. So for me, and then it was like, I told my wife, I had set a goal. I'm like, I'm going to be on the cover of a magazine within like 18 months, like just committed. And she knows that like, I'm not huge on goal setting, but I also like to have drivers. And like, when I put my mind to something, I'm going to do it. Well, 16 months later, got my first cover, Muscle and Performance magazine. And from there, things kind of started to blow up. It was like, okay, people understood my transformation. I had some mainstream credibility in the magazine industry and in the fitness industry. And after that, it was just sort of like, hey, the fitness industry likes Thomas Delauer because of the story. So the fitness industry kind of gave me a step up. But then I really wanted to share more about health. And I might get in trouble for saying this, but the problem was that the fitness industry doesn't really like health because the fitness industry is much more supplement driven and they're not really focused on what food can do for you. And they know deep down it's good, but come on, we all know what's going on there. So it was sort of like I had this short-lived stint in the fitness industry where they're just like, Thomas Delauer is great. He looks great. He had a great transformation, but he's talking about food.
Yeah. You don't want to represent muscle milk?
So it was like, all right, well, I mean, they still, like, I'm on very good terms with everyone in the fitness industry, but the thing was, is like, I was not someone that they could really use I wasn't taking sponsorships. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. So most people in the fitness industry, they get their little first initial surge, and then it's up to them to kind of latch on with a supplement company to take them to the next level online. Mm-hmm. Like, that's kind of what it is. Yeah. Okay, you get visibility because you link up with BSN or whatever. Mm-hmm. I wasn't willing to do that. So I'm just like, well, screw it. I'm going to do it myself. Mm-hmm. So in typical Thomas Delauer fashion, I'm just like, I'm going to create more content than anyone else out there because I know that I have a repository of information. So it started with my wife behind the camera. And this is always funny. Amber always tells this story, my wife. It started with her behind the camera, and it would always be like, she'd make facial expressions like just like interested or disinterested in what I'm talking about. Uh-huh. And one thing that, I learned with my videographers is like, if anyone here has ever been a director or anything like that, it's very important to keep a very stoic facial expression because the talent will pick up on that. And like, if the director looks confused, the talent will usually be like, oh, am I saying something weird? So my wife would just make standard kind of fluctuations in her face. And it would get to the point where you get like 1 minute into a video and I'd be like, what did I do, Amber? We just always end up in a fight. I'm just like, this isn't working. I need to get started and I need to get hire a videographer. So got to the point, hired a videographer. And I mean, it sounds cliche. The rest is kind of history. It was like, once I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep on creating this content. And I was seeing that people were really receiving it because I already had this initial platform. I already had 50, 60,000 followers. It was great. So I was like, all of a sudden they're like, whoa, this fitness model dude just like totally like pivoted and started just blasting out health information. So I had a great platform, a little bit of right time at the right place, right time with Facebook algorithms and stuff. I was just there at the right time to get good content out there. Suffice it to say, it's a lot harder now. Like it's very hard to break in now. Yeah. The algorithms have made it tough. So I was fortunate that my timing was good and been able to get out there. There's so many good people. I see so many great people that have just small followings that are just putting out such good information. And I try to link up with them when I can because I'm all about just elevating good people and getting messages out there because I see so many people that are producing so much good content, but they're literally limited by like the algorithms, like just making it tough to get their content out. So that's how I made that shift. And it was like, I'm really enjoying helping people. And next thing I know, I'm like, this is a business. Like, this is great. And it never looks like a business on the surface. I try not to like be that way. Sure, I sell my programs. Sure, I do that stuff. And I run advertisements for those. But as far as my organic content goes, I'm never pushy with people. I'll give as much content as I can away for free. The only time an ask ever comes up for money, as if someone actually needs something more custom. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, how many programs do you have now?
I've got my Adaptive Body Boost, which is my main keto program. That's like kind of an introductory to keto. And I know you've got one too, which, by the way, I need to talk to you. Want to get that out to my followers too.
Oh, awesome.
And then because let me preface that with, I feel like everyone should. Ebooks and everything are so inexpensive. It's good to absorb as much information from as many different people as you can. So I'm a rise tide, all ships rise kind of guy. You shouldn't follow just one person. You should try different approaches and find what works for you. Yeah. Then I've got my intermittent fasting program, which is with sixpackabs.com. That's a company that I partnered with and licensed my material over to. That's the so it's basically the science-based six-pack program, which is very in-depth fasting program. And then I've got my original program that I wrote, which was the 7-day Reboot, which is the organic Reboot, which is like an anti-inflammatory protocol, which is literally one of the first things that I did when I started changing my body was like understanding inflammation.
Oh, yeah.
So it's sort of an encyclopedia to teach you how to understand inflammatory foods.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So those programs I sell online, and then I have a couple of patents too. I have a patent on something called receptor cell mediated endocytosis, RCME technology. So I have basically that is a technology where I've taken lactoferrin and I have attached it to reduce glutathione so that it can be taken in a liposomal micellar form so that glutathione can actually be absorbed through the body. We might have to do another podcast on glutathione in general, but
man, no kidding. No kidding.
Interesting stuff. But yeah, so that's quite honestly, that's how I monetize online.
That's awesome. Yeah. What's really funny is I remember I was watching one of your live videos because you do awesome live videos, and I remember there was one, and there's probably been a few of these that have happened where you're doing your thing, and then people are asking questions, and then there was one person who was like, "Oh, it's a fitness model. What does he know about anything?" And you just went off, like not in a bad way, but like you literally just broke everything down to the science, and I was just laughing so hard because it's just like all of a sudden you see this guy, he looks like a fitness model, and then all of a sudden what comes out of his mouth is something like a PhD, and it's just like, what just happened? Like, I just find that so funny how many people like are so easy to look at the surface and go like, oh, what does this guy know?
He's always looked like that.
He's always looked like that. Oh my gosh. I know you have a video where you show like your stretch marks too, right?
Yeah, like 20 million views on that video. I mean, it definitely like went crazy viral. Yeah, it was showing like, because it came down, like it all came down from one Facebook comment that just, quite frankly, just ticked me off so bad. And it was just like, it was literally said something like, if you really lost that weight, then where's the loose skin and the stretch marks to show it? Genetically, I was fortunate enough that I didn't get a lot of loose skin. Like that, I got very lucky with. I definitely have some on my abdomen for sure, but it's not that bad. It was bad and it got better. I take a lot of collagen, which helps.
Yeah.
But the stretch marks they're there. I mean, that video shows them. And that whole video was out there to show like, guys, yes, I have them. And if you don't believe me, then take a look. Some close-ups of them. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people say, you always look like that, or you're a fitness model. Why should I listen to you? Models are meant to be seen, not heard.
Gosh. What are some of your biggest motivators now?
Well, now that I've got a 3-month-old baby, my motivators have changed. It's so crazy, man. Like, it's so wild. I mean, now with the kiddo here, I always thought that I had a long-term outlook on health. Like I always thought, I want to be alive for a long time. I want to be healthy, but holy it's changed. Like now, instead of actually wanting to just live for a long time, I'm more about, I want to be able to like roll around on the ground with my kid. Like I want to be more flexible. I want to be, it's such a different motivator. Like I now want to be able to actually enjoy my kid growing up. And so that's a huge motivator for me. So now it's less about how can I be as jacked as I possibly can, and more about, I still want to be jacked because I want my kid to look at me like I'm a superhero. So my motivation for being jacked is way different. But then now it's like flexibility is becoming a huge driver for me, but also just, I want to be present. How can I be present? And keto allows me to be in the moment and mindful so that I'm embracing these moments with my kid because I'm not going to get them back. So that's a huge motivator for me. But I also have, 1 million plus people following me online right now. And that is a huge motivator for me. They're honestly, they think that they're getting help from me with my content. They're helping me more than anything because there are days when I want to skip the gym. There are days when that bagel looks pretty darn good. But then I remember that I've got over 1 million people that are just sitting here like waiting for me to put out content, and I have a commitment to them. So that's, as cheesy as it sounds, that's a huge motivator for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know one of the biggest things we found, like we don't have a huge phone. We just started a couple months ago. But what's crazy is like every time I get on one of those dips where I'm like, oh man, I don't want to record that video today. Yeah. Like, I don't want to go to the gym today. It's like always I'll get a direct message. Somebody saw one of my posts, one of the videos, and they're like, man, that was an awesome video. That helped a ton. Or like, oh man, love what you're putting out. Like, keep going. It's just like, all right, that just got me fired up. Totally. Because you just see so much more tangibly the people you're helping and committing yourself to. That's awesome. And even back to just being present too. That's what the Neuro Lifestyle is all about, is just creating clarity. If you have a sick, unhealthy brain, you don't have clarity. You can't. Your brain's already sick. It's in a fog. Whether you think it's brain fog or not, your brain's not working the way it's supposed to. You're not seeing things clearly. And that's what Neuro Lifestyle is all about. It's just creating that opening so people can live their life authentically, passionately, and purpose-driven. Yeah. So that's awesome, and that's so cool. And where can people go to learn more about you, learn more about the Adaptive Body Boost specifically? Yeah, Adaptive Body Boost, just theadaptivebodyboost.com. That's and then so that's super simple. Mm-hmm. And of course, YouTube, you just punch in my name and you'll probably have more of me than you really want. And then Facebook, same kind of deal. I feel like it's worth mentioning too, and I know this isn't a sponsored podcast or anything like that, but a huge thank you to the guys over at Perfect Keto who actually connected us. Yeah. So I want to just give them a big thank you, because their collagen protein's awesome, everything like that. Again, I don't want to commandeer this with a plug, but they did put us together. So I want to quality products too. Huge thank you to them. So make sure you guys check them out. But in terms of thomasdelauer.com, it's not the prettiest website, but I needed a place for people to go because most of my following, most of everything I do is on social media. It's like I guess I need to focus on my website too. I suppose I should get on that, huh? Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I had such a good time chatting with you. And we'll make sure to include all the links on the show notes and everything for people to go and check out later. Totally. Let's and guys like that are listening, make sure you comment like what kind of topics you want to see us do in the future, because we live like super close to each other. This is awesome. 5 minutes away. We can do some more content, and it'd be fun to do some stuff on like glutathione, detoxing and stuff in general. That would be cool. I'm sure people are going to have some other questions, and we can go do a deep dive on a specific topic. Oh yeah, that'll be awesome. Yeah, make sure you comment below, submit your questions. You can direct message us too on Instagram, and we'll see you guys next time. All right, guys, that does it for another episode of The Neuro Lifestyle. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and make sure before you leave to leave a rating and review on iTunes to let us know what you thought about the show and show some love for Thomas Delauer. Only takes about a minute or two, but it means the world to me and to our audience as well, and helps get our message out to more people. So thank you in advance for that, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of The Neuro Lifestyle.